Have you ever thought about the role that certifications may play for your eco-conscious business? Today, it is my pleasure to welcome Adriana Green, the founder of Esteli. We're going to be talking today about how she has looked at certifications for her business. So, Adriana, can you please introduce yourself and share more about your company?
Sure. My name is Adriana Green Thompson. I'm the founder of a skincare and natural fragrance company called Esteli. We started out in 2016 in Oakland, Bay Area, and we're celebrating our ninth anniversary this week. And it's just been a journey, a lot of learning, a lot of expensive learning, and it is a learning journey. And I'm happy to offer whatever knowledge that I have accrued over these years, and just open to that.
Mhm. So, now for Esteli, when you were first getting started, at what point in your journey did you have a little bit of the aha moment that you thought it would make sense to start pursue certifications for your business?
I think overall, just looking at, being a founder-led business and working in markets where people were able to talk to me and get to know the values of our company, that is so valuable. But when it comes to people not meeting me, maybe finding us on the website, I need to have some certain level of communication of our values for people. So that comes in the level of certifications in that way.
So, when you went to do your very first certification, can you talk a little bit more about one of those first certifications that you did?
So the one that I pursued is Leaping Bunny. And to be honest, that one uh, caught my attention and became something when I realized that there was no cost to get certified. And that was aha moment. Like, okay, I'm going to be able to pursue this. So I looked at the website, and I believe there was an enrollment form, or you can say I'd like to apply. And it was a pretty easy process. Basically, they wanted to know all the suppliers that we use, and and a lot of the suppliers are already familiar with it because their customers have already been Leaping Bunny certified. So a lot of my suppliers just say, okay, send the form to this person, and they communicate. They send it back to Leaping Bunny. Um, there's a couple that did it instantly, and there's a couple that I had to kind of prod, but it was very
Mhm.
easy. And I think in the Leaping Bunny module, they show you, okay, this person responded. We're still waiting on this company. So it's very easy.
Mhm. So, as part of the Leaping Bunny certification, it sounds like internally they are able to kind of guide you through where you are in the process and where all the responses are. So, it sounds like it's pretty user friendly from that perspective of being able to see what's going on with your certification, as opposed to some things are often a black box. But it sounds like this one was helpful in that you could actually see, who had responded and what information had been provided.
Yeah. And sorry,
No, no, go
to
ahead, go ahead.
into their credit, it wasn't just an automated thing where I just look at a dashboard and it shows it, but there was actually a real person emailing me,
Mhm,
congratulations, we just got it from this person.
mhm,
So there's a very like a hand holding element to it that is
mhm,
really, it takes away the intimidation.
mhm. And I think that's an important piece of finding something that allows you to get started without it being completely terrifying. Because let's face it, going down some of these paths can be intimidating for a business owner. You're thinking, well, who am I? I'm a small brand and I'm going to do what? Certification? So I do think there is an intimidation factor. So knowing that some of the organizations are handholders and cheerleaders is actually really nice to hear, as opposed to here, if you don't check these 48 boxes and you missed number 47, you're out and you have to start over, kind of thing. So it's nice that they've got that available. So, as you were pursuing Leaping Bunny, can you talk a little bit more about how long did the process take for you to actually get the certification? And how much effort and time do you think it took on your end to kind of get everything into their systems?
I think overall it's really easy and quick, and it all depends on the person, the founder, the maker, and getting on top of that because um, I think that's where the most of the lag was. It was me being too busy to
Mm,
send the email to the supplier or touch base with them and follow up with them. But once I did that, and like I said, these suppliers are used to it. They know the drill.
mhm,
So if there was any lag, I would say it'd be on my part. And there was some prodding by the Leaping Bunny people, say, hey, this person. So um, I think as long as you are proactive, it can go
mhm,
fairly quickly.
mhm. That's also good to hear. So it doesn't have to be a multi-year process to try to
Yeah.
actually get that certification. It can be quick. The more
Mm-hmm.
coordination that you're able to do and the more that you're able to follow up. But it is a little project. And so we do have to
Mm-hmm.
also acknowledge that you're taking it on just like any other kind of business project, pursuing some sort of certification like this. You have to kind of plan out for it. You have to plan the communication with your suppliers and kind of and know that that timeline is probably going to be a little bit dependent upon your ability to respond to the certifications bodies as well. It's not just a email one thing and I'm done kind
Mm-hmm.
of process when you're going through something like Leaping Bunny. Now, so that's one of the early certifications that you've pursued. But let's talk a little bit more about things you've learned about how some of the certifications in the broader industry work. So, can you share some of the other experiences and lessons learned in other certifications that you've pursued?
Um, I would say as small businesses, it was before I had this business. I had learned, I'm from the Oakland area, and there's a company, probably a lot of you guys have heard about it, called Blue Bottle. And it was very small at the time. And I remember going to a business meeting, and one of the founders was talking about the organic certifications.
Hmm.
And he was talking about how they, um, so there's a conflict there or a nuance there that you can get your materials from a small farm that practices values that align with your company, but they might not have the money because these certifications are very expensive. So to be certified organic, they'd have to spend thousands of dollars to um, certify their farm. And so that's one thing is when you're working with smaller companies, they might not have that seal because they simply can't afford it. It doesn't, so that seal doesn't really represent their values. So you have to take that in consideration.
Hmm.
Bigger companies, like in my case, skincare or cosmetics, the L'Oreal brands, they have the money for all those badges on their packaging. Yet there's something that we as small businesses have something that's more valuable. We have ourselves. You can see our values.
Hmm.
I don't think I know, there's no face of L'Oreal for me that I can think of who comes and says, our company is very focused on these values. So they have to pay and they have the money to earn those badges on their packaging. Where us as human beings and the faces of our brands, we can provide that trust, those trust badges, as you can say, but in our own words and showing how we make our products or run our business. So I think I might have forgotten the original
No,
question. Oh,
no.
yeah, I was just wanting to say that founder of the Blue Bottle opened my eyes as a consumer when I realized, oh, that's true. These badges or these certifications are expensive, and just because a company doesn't have that badge doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have those values.
Mhm. But that is a good consideration. So if someone's thinking about, I absolutely want to pursue some of these certifications, but those certifications are going to require my suppliers to also have certifications. That's a great nuance to say, okay, if I'm using some small or local suppliers, they may not have had the budget to pursue those certifications, even though the products really do meet those standards. So here what you're really teasing out is the difference between something meeting the standard and something also having the certification. So as an entrepreneur, if you start really looking at the things that are in your product and you ask yourself, if those suppliers have the certifications, that's fine. But if they don't, are you still going to be able to pursue it for your product? I think that's a huge nuance and isn't something that people would think about necessarily. Of the process to get certified goes all the way through, right? Because it also involves your supply chain. And if you're not making all of it yourself from scratch, one, even if you are, the ingredients that go into it then have to meet all those as well. So that's a really good nuance for people to consider. How does that fit? Does it meet that criteria? But there's some other things that you have learned about how some of the awards and some of these different systems worked that I think is another nuance for people to consider. Do you want to talk about some of the different awards that you've pursued in the past and just how that industry works? Because that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, there's so many awards in my field of skincare, beauty awards, and honestly, I see new ones pop up in my email all the time. I mean, brands that I've never heard of, all of a sudden they realize that there's a way to make some money. Um, and what it all boils down to, and so what they're selling usually is the right to use their logo on your website and your packaging. So, one thing I did want to say about certain certifications is I think it's really important to ask yourself if they're really worth it because there's so many, and you could say maybe you have an eczema product and you want to be approved. See, that's something that I would think is a good thing to look at if your customer is if that's a really good investment for your business if your customer cares. In my sense, my I don't have a certified organic seal on my products, but I'm very transparent with the ingredient list, and you can see the
Mhm.
organic ingredients there. So someone who really is attracted to my brand and attracted to the product, they will look at it and they will see for themselves. So the person that's not looking at so there's people who will just buy something because it has that trust badge. And then there's
Mhm.
other people who that really won't matter. It's they want to flip over and see your ingredient list. Um, but one thing about the certifications and awards, um, I did want to mention if you are trying to pursue a certification, I would do it when a lot of them have sliding scales for I was talking
Mm.
about the use of the logo. For example, Leaping Bunny, to use their logo, they don't have a price, upfront price. They will say, how much is your revenue? And so we'll charge you this much. So if you are going to if you think this is a certain certification that I really need, I would pursue it when you're young, your business is young, because that affects the pricing.
Mm. Yeah, that's another great nuance to it is that there's the sliding scale type pricing. Like even some people are probably more familiar on the consumer side, like with certified B Corps, and that's a percent of revenue type model that goes into that and some additional costs. And I was really interested in it. I looked at it at one point and I went, "Oh wow, okay, yeah, maybe not at least not at this stage." And would it have made sense for me or not? I don't know, but you really do have to look at the costs associated with it because they're also businesses just like we are, right? They
Mm-hmm.
have costs to run those infrastructures for that too. And that's a great tip of it's best to start when you're small because that's going to start on the scale when you're much smaller versus
Mm-hmm.
trying to start when you're larger and it being retroactive and embedding that much extra cost in it.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is if you were to look on the horizon about how you're thinking about what's next or possible certifications, do you think you've gone as far as you want to go with Esteli? Or are there more that you're contemplating pursuing for the future?
Yeah, there's definitely more that I would contemplate as far as like testing, third party testing for my products. That to me is very important to my customer and myself, like purity testing and things like that. See, so that's something that I value. Like you were mentioning the B Corp. I remember um, before I was in this business, I remember getting an email from one of the companies that I had subscribed to, and they had announced that they were B Corp. And honestly, as I didn't really, it didn't really matter to me. I didn't even know what that was. So as their customer, it was wasted on me. I don't know if I can't speak for their other customers, but when you just said that it's part of your revenue, that to me is like, that's a lot. That's a lot to give up for that. And so you really have to make sure that it's worth it. It is an investment, and you're giving up a lot of your money, and that money could help your sales. It could attract more customers into your brand. And if it does, that would be a wise investment. Otherwise, there might be people who don't even know what that means. And they might be vegan or into the cruelty free. So that Leaping Bunny one was worth it to them, but not the B Corp. So it's really dialing into your customers and what will help your business.
Hmm. And it's a great thing to start researching. Start asking. If you're thinking about some of these certifications, there's clever ways to weave these things
Mm-hmm.
in where you can ask and see what people know or don't know. And that's a great way to start the research and see if it turns out people are recognizing it at all or not. And that can also factor into your research process. So you're interested in it, but you're not sure, start some research because it'll take time to figure out
Mm-hmm.
which ones make the most sense. And for you as well, I think it's interesting to get to hear more as you get down the road on third party certifications because that'll be a whole new area to explore. So
Mm-hmm.
this has been a really great conversation. Really interesting, a lot of nuance that most people don't get into. So if people want to follow your journey and want to follow you on social media, how do they find you?
So our website is the best place. It's estilibody.com. We're also on Instagram, which is at estilibody. We're on Twitter, LinkedIn, and that's pretty much it right now. I
Mhm.
would say you can email me at hello@estilibody.com. I love responding to emails. I love responding to messages on our website. So if you have any questions, I'm so happy to help.
Mhm. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Adriana. And thank you to everyone who tuned in.
Thank you.